Dr. West, honored to be able to ask you a question. My name is Mo Dhaliwal. I run an agency in Vancouver here, also a podcast called High Agency. I want to ask you a specific question about the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. And there's a metaphor in there for, I think, like an authentic connection to struggle, poetry, art.
Absolutely.
And perhaps a perspective that there's a machine that is wildly successful. And I think on some level, we were sort of wrestling with that as Canadians, right? Because there's a somewhat of an obligation to uphold Drake, but then also an appreciation for the fact that there's an authentic connection to struggle and art and poetry. Where else are you seeing these metaphors play out? And could you give us your take on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef?
Wow, I appreciate that question, my brother. Well, I see these folk at Tech have real cosmopolitan sensibilities here. Well, I tell you this, that I grew up on the chocolate side of Sacramento, California, Shiloh Baptist Church, and there was a brother who played in my church every fifth Sunday. We knew him as Sylvester, but he's known to the world for the genius that he is. His name is Sly Stone. And he founded Sly and the Family Stone. And he had Larry Graham, was one of the greatest bass players. And Larry Graham's brother is who? Drake's father, Mr. Graham. That's why in the Kendrick Lamar responses, he calls him Graham. Just like he calls himself Duckworth, because Kendrick Lamar comes from the south side of Chicago. That's where his parents come from. And his father was part of the gang culture and then made the way to Compton. So they're really Chicagoans in Compton, but raising their genius boy in Compton. So the histories are very important. And he's named after Eddie Kendricks, who sings falsetto for the Temptations. Kendrick Lamar. That's Eddie Kendrick from Birmingham, Alabama. He's another towering figure. And you all know about Temptations, Motown. We won't go into all of that now. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So what do we have? Well, on the one hand, you have a genius, Kendrick Lamar. I don't think Drake's a genius. I think he's a highly, highly, highly talented artist. I don't think he's a genius. There's a difference between Curtis Mayfield and Wilson Pickett. Wilson Pickett's a talented brother. Curtis Mayfield, genius. Stevie Wonder, genius. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, everybody's humanity is the same. Doesn't make any difference. But what happens then, of course, now you have Brother Drake's got a vanilla mother. So things get complicated. Then he's not from the U.S. empire. He's from Canada. But he's connected by his father to Chocolate Oakland. His father was quite a musician too, That Graham family. In fact, their mother was a leading evangelical singer in Oakland. They started the Graham family. So you got Drake's father and his uncle and his grandmother. Things get complicated. And that just sets the stage for the beef. I love both of the brothers. I've met Drake. He's got a wonderful spirit. I met him years ago before he was really famous. He's got a wonderful spirit about him. And the fact that he brought Kendrick in to be with him in 2010, 2012. He could have chose anybody. He chose this particular genius from Compton to travel with him all around the country and the world. That's important for the backdrop in terms of the human and humane connections. But the clash takes place, and it's been very unfortunate for Brother Drake. I think that he has been unable to triumph. God bless him and be with him, and I think it's unfortunate that a lot of the ugly ad hominem attacks on both sides oftentimes become much more visible. I like the anthem from Kendrick Lamar. When we went to jail in Ferguson, we went to jail too. It's going to be all right. Now, Not Like Us has become the anthem. Now, give me It's Going to Be All Right rather than Not Like Us, if there's going to be an anthem. So that's another unfortunate side of it. But, competition's competition. Brothers will be brothers. Men will be men. Patriarchal folk with sensibilities will be patriarchal folk with sensibilities. So they have to crush each other. But as they lift rather than lifting together. If I had a chance to talk to both of them, you know what I would say? I would say, you know, it would be nice if you had a sense of history in which almost the same month the jazz critics told Sonny Rollins, you are the colossus of the saxophone, and told Coltrane, you are the colossus of the saxophone. You all fight it out. And what did they do? Sonny Rollins, who's living right outside of East River, he invites Coltrane to his place. He said, we're not going to let these folk get in the way. We tied to the music. We tied to freedom. We tied to dignity. We tied to integrity. We tied to something bigger than us. And we don't exist without Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Sarah Vaughan and Billie Holiday. Drake and Kendrick could sit down and say, we don't exist without Biggie, without Pac, without ... Tradition, bigger than us. Music, bigger than us. People suffering, bigger than us. Now go on and do what you got to do and raise your voice, and do what you got to do and raise your voice in your own crypto-Canadian way and in your Compton way. And the irony is, 10, 20 years from now, they both going to be gone. They both going to be gone. Because that's how life is. That's how traditions are. And you hope that their genius and their talent will be picked up. But right now, you know, you just got this fetishized moment of these two black brothers going at each other. And it's just so ugly. And, you know, we won't go into all details. It's press conference. Yeah, absolutely. But I appreciate you. But does that make sense, my brother? Yeah, indeed. But I salute you, though.